All right, Faciteers, we're back with part two. So when you think about stocks in regards to this form of investing, I think this is probably the most simple way to get started because when you think about investing into homes, just real estate, you think about properties and all that, that's something where you have to be able to have your credit together. If you want to do it from a cash standpoint, you got to have a good amount of dollars. And it's something to where it can come with like a lot of high risk and high reward. But there's often risk, especially when you think about how the markets move. So people will tell you that you can start it with no credit down, with zero down, but there's going to be different values that are going to come into play that you may not, that you have to eventually fund. And if you don't have the money, that you can be into a deep hole. So that's something that you eventually got to put your dollars into. You know, it's going to come a point to where you may have to um, do some things that require you to have um, have some money. So at the end of the day, but the easiest way to help you to get started is to invest into the stock market. So when it comes to the stock market, I remember the summer of around like 2019, and I had already been looking into stocks a bit, but I didn't really understand like the concept enough. And so, you heard about Bitcoin at the time. And around this time, Bitcoin was probably around like I think it got into like 5K. So everybody's just talking about Bitcoin. You got to put your money in this and put your money into that. And I was like, man, I don't really have enough money to do it. Like, I would eventually like to be able to buy Bitcoin. Just to let y'all know, I never did. But when you think about it, like at that time, I was like, man, everybody was just talking about getting a Bitcoin. I was like, bro, this would be crazy. And this is where you learn like how emotional buying is. Everybody was just talking about that and putting their money into it, but people couldn't tell you what it looked like to actually buy Bitcoin. What's going to be the volatility on it? What exactly that's going to do? And so people were just like, hey, you put your money in this and it's going to grow. Eventually, yes, it did, but still to this day, it could go down at any given point and people still won't understand. It's just about seeing the money grow. But for me, I'm like, I need to understand how my money's moving. And even if there is a risk with this, what is that going to look like? Because if I lose all my money, then I'm going to be kind of set back. And then how am I going to get it back? But when I learned the ins and outs of the stock market, I was like, this is something that's been going on for years and years and years. And this is something that's just always going to be there, something that's just always going to evolve and something that's never going to change. Why? Because companies are going to keep on growing. More dollars are going to be put into companies. Markets are going to continue to fluctuate in different types of ways. But each and every day, you have a new company that's coming out. You have a company that's eventually wanting to go public, or they have the resources to go public, and they're going to go to the stock market so they can have people, everyday people, invest, so they can take away their debts and so they can grow as a company. And so, as I'm learning about this, I took a little bit of time during the summer. I did get like my first stock investments and things going. I'll talk about that later down the line in some episodes, but I just had put like a little bit of money into it. I first started off on Robinhood. Now, for anybody that may be like looking into how to get started, Robinhood is a good way to start. Obviously they have other institutions now where you can start with a low amount. Robinhood was one where it was just more of a, I would say as far as for the layout, it was more appealing. So oftentimes people would go with that. Plus they had like they would always have like the promotions, like if you invested a little bit, they would give you some back. So everybody was like pro Robinhood early on. Then they had some issues during the pandemic where like Robinhood wasn't allowing people to be able to withdraw their money. It was just a crazy thing. And I actually got away from Robinhood. What I use now is Fidelity. I'm about to get into TD Ameritrade, which is actually converted to Charles Schwab. And I like those because these are actually like FDIC approved. So these are like federal institutions, and they have the backing as well too. Now, there's nothing wrong with something like a Robinhood, but it kind of works like a chime, in my opinion, where you just may not have the proper resources, and it's not. It doesn't have like that true, I guess, service like a Fidelity and Charles Schwab does. Because the good thing about Fidelity and Charles Schwab, what I learned is these institutions, they have trainings that you can go through. Like on their websites, if you check it out, you can actually go in and learn different things about the stock markets, about how stocks are moving, volatility. They have so many different courses and they promote these. Also, what you can do is, and it's free of charge, you can actually call in, and they have like a few different tiers, but you can call in and speak to someone and they can tell you how to be able to get started and how to be able to make your money work for you. And so if you have a question about any type of stock or any type of company and how they're moving, you can actually speak to someone what they'll call like a high level trader, and they'll actually walk you through the process. I've told so many of my friends and family about this. I don't even know if any one person has ever even done it, but you can go through and they'll literally talk to you about what type of accounts you can have, how to be able to elevate your Roth IRA, how to open up a Roth IRA, how to get a regular IRA, how to be able to get an investment account. Now they have where your investment accounts can actually be part of your spending account. So you can actually have your investments moving, but it can be a part of your expenditures, your spending. So, and then you'll learn about just your highs and lows. You'll learn about how to be able to. I'm about to put you on some hellified game. This ain't even probably about to have. It might not even have one view until it gets to a point to where people gonna wonder, like, the market's like, I'm curious. I have so many questions. Like, I'm like, man, I was talking about this in 2025, but like when you go into your investment accounts, like you have your margins, right? So margins is almost kind of like you using credit based on how much money you have in your account, and that allows you to be able to go against your house. And you have your surpluses where you can actually like pretty much utilize certain money. So it bases how much money that you have in your account and how much stock that you have going, and that'll give you equity. So same way in which it kind of does for housing, you can utilize it and go against your margin. Your margin is kind of like credit that you can use in order to purchase some stocks and stuff like that. So there's different ways in which how the stock markets work, but these are things that I learned over time. And you'll learn this as well too as you continue to put your money into the right places. But fast forward, I really taught myself about the stock market during the pandemic. And so I had just like during the pandemic for myself, this was a time where I had like so much time with myself. And I was a person where I was just always moving 1,000 miles an hour. I just, never really was sitting in one place. And then oftentimes I would start something and not finish. But I said, all I have is time and this pandemic's coming. So I don't know when anything's going to change. And I said, the first thing I want to learn is the stock market. And so there's still many pieces of the stock market I still have to learn, but when it comes to the basics, man, I got so much understanding. I've been on a friend's podcast before sharing this. I shared it with friends and family, and again, I don't even know if people have even taken the advice or taken the information, because even when I'm talking to some folks, this is like you can just see how knowledge and understanding is just like not even just went over top of people's heads, but like when time passes, people just forget about everything. But I use this. There was a free app on the phone, and it's called. I'm about to tell you. I'll tell everybody this same thing. I give the same information to everybody. It's called Learn My Wall Street. That literally gives you the full breakdown about the basics of stocks. It tells you about options and all that. It literally gives you everything, and it's crazy. Even to the point to where when I watched this, or when I went through all the modules on here, and I love his content. But even when I listened, like I bought Wall Street Trappers class, like some years later, everything that I had already learned, I feel like I was even getting it from this. And he had a few different things in there that was like a little bit more advanced, but really I had already gotten all the knowledge that he was already kind of providing through this. So it's not to take away from his courses or anything, because it's good. It's great that somebody like him is in the public eye. We need that, especially as a black man. But just black in general, we need to see more of that. So definitely, as far as for what he's providing, I mean, just even with his prices, like I wish there was a time where you could even pay to like catch up with him and stuff like that. That would have been super super dope. But what he's doing is phenomenal. But for me, I ended up learning early on through this and then some other resources online. But the good thing about what people like Wall Street Trapper are doing is you're paying the price for their course, but they're putting it all in one place. So he even has his Trappers Anonymous on Facebook and stuff like that. So that makes it dope because you don't have to go to all these different places like I did. Like my Learn Wall Street, like it had a great amount of information in here, but still when it came to options and other stuff, I had to go learn that and some there are other courses or go online and learn it here. But that's the point about knowledge and wisdom. It's all over the place. You got YouTube and everything. So even when you have some of these elders that say, man, we didn't have that back in my day, a lot of the information that we get in is people from y'all's time that are talking about it. So you've got to utilize your own resources and you've got to actually go and use the resources that are out here. You can't keep making those old excuses and saying, oh, we didn't have it during our, yes, you did. And the fact that you know now, why not use that to your advantage? But the end of the day, people love to make excuses until it gets to the point to where they feel as if like time is kind of like, I'm going to figure out something to try to see how far I can get to a solution versus me feeling if it's not something that I can't figure out. Like, no, the stuff's out here. Then when you hear people talking about it, that's the thing. People just don't want to take enough time to actually sit in it and go through the learning curves. I mean, you know how many times in these last 15 plus years people have been talking about stocks, investments, startups, companies. Like, it's been such a common conversation that people just don't want to take the time to actually try to understand it. But anyways, so taught myself and learned about the ins and outs of the stock markets. And then that's when I started to, like I said, invest. So first I started off with Robinhood a bit, and then I learned about like Fidelity, as I told y'all. And then I just learned about the different types of accounts. So over time, as I continue to be able to build, I've had different financial struggles and stuff like that as an adult. And I know in the future, once I definitely start to level back up and get back into my space, all the knowledge and stuff that I've learned, it will continue to work over time. And I've had moments, even during the pandemic when I was in between jobs and stuff like that. There was different times where I'd have a good decent amount of money and then it would fall off and I'd have to get back up and have to get back on top. But still, you have to learn how to continue to be able to utilize your money. And so even when you're at a point to where your dollars are low, you can still invest. If you have at least a minimum of $5, you need to be putting that into the stock market. Don't just be taking your money and just saving it into a jar. You can do that with a little bit of your money. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that, to be able to save up your cash for a rainy day. But your money is going to grow exponentially if you have it into the markets. You're losing the amount of interest that you can get. If you put it, even if you just put it into a savings account, they have some savings account now where you can get like, I think 5% interest over the course of a year. In the stock market, you can maybe even grow higher than that. And then over time, it'll outpace how much interest that you would even get from it being in a savings account, especially in 5 to 10 years. So your best bet, I'm telling you, is to put your money into the markets. Now people will say, oh man, I don't want to lose my money. I'm just afraid that things may, it's volatile. For y'all that don't know, volatility means when things are going up and down, when there's market pressure, when investors are taking out money, when companies may be moving in a certain type of way, and then the flow of money goes up and down. So whenever you're going through the process of being able to invest, the best advice I can give you is to start small. And there's been times where I put a good amount in there and I have to take it out. Boom, start small. Because what you'll notice, what you will notice is that even when I was doing this with crypto and I didn't even know anything about it, I'd have moments where I'm having to remove $5 from my account each and every day. And then eventually you get to a point where you have so much saved up and you're like, wow, I didn't even know I had all this money in here. But then because how the market, we'll say, I don't even know much about crypto, so I'm not even really going to try to use that example, just showing you how the $5 will work. I look at that and be like, okay, this is growing a good amount. If you put that same thing into the stock market, you're going to really see, especially as these companies start to grow, as you start to get into ETFs and stuff like that, you're going to be like, bro, my money is really, really moving. And $5 is went a long way. Think about how much money you spend in the course of a week. If you just take $5, and now you can even you can do less than that. You can do a couple dollars, but if you literally do $5 a day, if we do 5 times 365, that's literally $1,825 a year. That's nothing. And what is crazy is that $5 a day, and I'm saying this, and I haven't even done the $5 a day method in a while because life been life, and so I've just had to move in different types of ways. But still, really, $5 a day ain't no excuse. So I can't even sit here and say that life, whatever, $5 a day ain't no excuse. But when you're thinking, having to focus in other areas, sometimes your mind is just not even locked into this. But $5 a day, 365 days, is $825. So if you think about how the stock market moves, you're definitely going to be able to grow that by the end of the year easily. And the different ways you can do it is through ETFs. You can do it through buying individual stocks. You just have to do your due diligence to see what type of companies are moving and how are they moving. The good thing with ETFs is you can get a part of each different type of company depending on what type of industry you want to focus on. If I want to get a tech ETF, I can get pieces of Google, Tesla, Microsoft, the big five, the big 10, you know what I'm saying? The Fortune 500 companies. I can get a piece of each of those. And there's some ETFs where they're always going up because the companies are always advancing, more people are investing, and it's flowing in that type of way. So what I'm saying is that you're going to have times where you maybe even be in the mindset that I'm thinking survival. I got to focus. I can't even really put my money here because I need each and every dollar. That happens. I've been in that space. Like there's been moments, especially during when we're going through layoffs, where it's like you just don't even know. Like you might just need that $5 to be able to hold off until the next check comes in. Like I get it. So eventually, when you get to a point to where you are able to invest some money, still continue to educate yourself so you can be in that mindset. So I wanted to share this because I think it's important that just thinking about the minimum $5 a day, that goes a long way. I even think for myself, like there's times where I still keep some money like in a jar and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with like if you have some extra dollars, putting it in there, because any way that your money can grow is great. But when you think about as far as being able to scale and being able to focus on the long term, like having some types of stocks and investments that are growing, that is huge. That's how the rich become rich. That's how the wealth grows, because they're able to do that through acquiring assets. And then you think about like even working for tech companies, like a lot of places they offer equity. So folks will go there and then you work there for at least a minimum for at least a year, you're going to get 25% of equity within your package. And so you're going to vest. What they call vesting is that you're going to get a certain amount of equity each and every month that you work there for probably usually up to 4 years. So say for instance, if you work for a tech company and then they give you, let's say 3,000 shares, right? Well, that's because they want you to be owning the company, and that's for you working there. So usually whenever you hit year one, that's when you at least get 25% of your investment. So what happens each month after that, you get a small amount to where eventually you'll get the full investment if you stay there for the 4 years. If not, then you've only gotten, a certain amount of the investment. But what's great about that is you still have been able to get equity in some of these companies. What if they blow up one day? Hey, you may have some people get lucky to where they can get hundreds of thousands, maybe close to $1 million because they stay with the company for forever. That's not realistic for everyone, but still, if you can put in the work and get some equity, imagine whenever that does hit later down the line. Say, for instance, if you go through an acquisition, I've been through that before. You get that money there, you can put it into something else, or you can be able to utilize it for some bills or whatever you got to do. Like I had to take care of financial stuff, but at the end of the day, by you still putting in the work, you can learn how equity and stuff works. So while you're doing that, take time to be able to just put at least a little bit of money into the market to learn about that. If somebody has questions, I'm glad to help them with starting points. Like I said, even when I was just learning early on during the pandemic, I did a whole podcast with a couple of friends, literally telling people about how to get started. And with all this knowledge and stuff that I'm giving, it's free out there. It's not anything that people got to pay me for or whatever, but folks will literally ask me the same questions that I provide in these talks and everything. But then what'll happen is like I'll talk about it and then I won't say anything or speak out about it for a year, months, or whatever out in the public, and then don't nobody say anything because people just want to be a part of the conversation in the real time because all they want to do is just be hungry for attention, or they just want to they want to seem as if they're a part of something for the moment. But I'm not trying to do that. Like at the end of the day, it's like I'm not trying to look like a person that just has this and that going on and trying to look cool for a moment. It's like, no, we're trying to build. So I want to be around people that's constantly trying to build, not people that are just there for temporary type of gains or whatever. Like we're not doing that. So for the real people, we have the real people in my life. We've been having these conversations for years, and even through our ups and downs, there's many moments where I've had friends where money gets tight, like we've trying to figure things out and we have to step away from that, right? Or step away from the markets or whatever. But because we're still having these conversations, we know that when we do get our things together, when we do get our businesses right, that we're knowing how tax breaks and things work. We're knowing how insurance policies work. We're knowing how to be able to understand chargeback. We know how to understand all these different principles because we're having these conversations even when we don't have it. And that's where the conversations have to keep going. There's been too many times where I'll post something and then people, even when it came to my weight loss, where it's like, hey, I've lost this amount of weight. Oh, how'd you lose it? And I've really showed many times and I provide many examples through the process about how I've lost it. But then those same ones, they want to know when I post the how much weight that I've lost, but then they don't even want to be a part of the process anymore. Or they don't want to ask any questions. They don't want to be engaged. They just want to do it for their personal gain or just say that, hey, I was checking in. No, we're not doing that. So When people want to understand certain things or they want to be nosy or whatever, they can come to the podcast because the real ones we already have in those conversations. And we're already providing level up platforms. We're providing so much depth within each other that even what I provide on here is not even close to what we provide in our day-to-day conversations and in the love that we're sharing with each other. So that's why for me, it's just like, I find it funny sometimes and I'll just be sitting back and I'm just like, people just don't even know how they be moving. But that's why in this season that I've been in, it's been so great to just pour into myself and pour into the right people and not give so much focus to all the other nonsense and stuff like that. So shout out to the ones that's tapping in. I know for me, I can go on my rambles, which I got to stop saying rambles because I'll be providing some good information. I just love being able to talk and speak about my life and share things about myself. But I mean, it is rambling at times because like I can just go on and go on and go on and go on. But what I'm learning over time is to be able to slow down my pace, be able to create breaks, being able to write down my different timelines, speaking points. Like this whole process is more than just me putting out information doing a podcast. It's about me learning breath control. It's about me learning how to be able to convey stories, expand on my storytelling, and being able to continue to be authentic and be um, vulnerable and be able to be open in ways where it allows me to show who I am, but also allows me to be able to um, create a space for others to be able to express themselves. Like I'm an open book. I love sharing things about my life, but also there's parts where I keep that reserved, or there's parts where I share it for the people that matter, which is a lot of things in my life, right? Um, but as I continue to grow and develop, this is why people appreciate me because I like to share things in real time at certain points, but also just from a perspective that I don't have it all figured out. I'm flawed. Like I'm someone that is not trying to be perfect. I'm someone that isn't perfect. Like I'm someone that had to remove himself even from that space because other people would put me in that box. But to be who I am to this day and continuing to grow, I've had to allow myself to be this because there's been too many times where people that had their limitations would try to throw those on me, and too many times when like insecurities from others would eventually kind of come my way because I didn't know who I was at certain points, or because they didn't know who they was. I'm a person that is growing and I know I am learning who I am, but they're not willing to do that for themselves. So it's holding me back. And then now I'm holding myself back further. Right. So as I continue to grow and continue to develop, this is why I'm doing this. And I truly appreciate myself and how I've been able to show up and how I've continued to be able to use my voice. And I feel that's something that God's continuing to grant me because it's something that is needed, but it's something where I don't have to impact every single person in the world. Like the people that are going to hear are the ones that are meant to hear it, and the ones that I meet along the way that are similar to me, and the ones that really want to grow. Those are the ones that I'll connect with and will build. Other than that, like I don't have time for it anymore because I've got to I've got goals and I have aspirations and things that I want to build and I'm willing to put the time into. So that's where I got to put my focus. But it's your boy DeMarcus, man. This is the life of a multifaceted. Shout out to all my supporters, all the people that's truly rock with me. My Instagram is IG that man Marco. My food page is Mashing Up with Marco. Those both of those pages are also on TikTok, and then my YouTube page is the Multifacets of DeMarcus. When I say that this content is about to blow up, well, I can't say we finna. I won't say it's gonna blow up. We finna like take off with how much content I'm about to release, bro. We about to be really in that zone. So whether it blows up or not, like I'm not worried about that. I really meant to say like we about to put it out so much content about to really level up because when it comes to the virality and all that type of stuff, like honestly, I don't even want that. Like I want to be able to have a lot of wealth to where I'm able to grow within myself and my family, be able to give so much back to others. But just being famous for the heck of it, like I really don't have time for that at all. Like I like to be in my own space and I like to be out the way. I love to be a person that people respect in many rooms, and I've been a popular person at times, but that doesn't bring me joy. Just being a popular person in the room, I love being a person that people love and can be around, but that they respect because they feel as if there's excitement. I bring a happiness. I bring just a joy, like just being somebody that's a name in the room just because I got followers, like they don't do nothing for me. It does not excite me in any type of way. But if I do have that, but then I'm able to impact rooms because of my authenticity and because of my voice, like cool. But I like to have that reserved space for me where I can just be my best self. So I'm going to continue to grow. I'm going to be putting out a lot of content, just talking about my keloid journey, fitness journey, just my level up overall, and just keeping just authentic about just with me and just letting people just see parts of my life that can hopefully help to inspire others. So it's your boy, DeMarcus, man, and I'm up out of here. Peace.